Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
It's 4 o'clock. We have a quorum, so I'm going to get the party started. I'm reading from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission agenda. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of the order presented. 2 or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. Backup materials for this agenda may be obtained from Luandy Holmes, City Clerk, at the Office of the City Clerk, 495 South Main Street, 2nd floor, or on the city's webpage at www.lasvegasnevada.gov. I'd like to start with item number 1, call the meeting to order and request a roll call.
Chair Becker, excused. Vice Chair Niger.
Here.
Commissioner Sherman.
Present via teleconference.
Commissioner Arminian, excused. Commissioner Gabray, excused. Commissioner Howard. Here. Commissioner Keller.
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Zamora.
Present on the phone.
Commissioner Burgos.
Here.
Commissioner Cornwall. Excused. Commissioner Robinson.
Present.
Commissioner Stitt. Excused. Commissioner Vokitz. We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Item number 2, I'd like to make an announcement regarding compliance with open meeting law. Are we in compliance?
We are.
Wonderful. Then I will move on to item number 3, public comment. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Seeing no one for public comments, I'd like to conclude this segment by introducing our new commissioner from Ward 1, Mr. Brian Vokitz.
Good to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're excited to have you. If you don't mind, feel free to introduce yourself to the commission and the folks here and say anything you'd like.
Well, I'm pleased to join the group. I've been in Las Vegas over 60 years. Seen a lot of growth in this city. It seems like it reinvents itself every 10 years. I started out as a little kid at Dula learning how to swim, and now I return and find out that there's a military adaptive training course for pickleball there, which is just amazing to see the spectrum. And I'm looking forward to participating. I do a lot with pickleball, I'll let you know. I was on the board with Southern Nevada Pickleball, and that's my new passion, but I've also played tennis, racquetball, and try to get out and about and recreate every week. And I encourage people to do that. I used to work in orthopedics, and I believe that if people move it, they will not lose it. So I won't take too much of your time, but I'd like to meet each of you individually. Okay?
Awesome. Please introduce yourself to Brian before you guys leave today. Hey. All right, moving on to item number 4, for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of March 5, 2024. Calling for a motion to approve.
Commissioner Howard, so moved.
Second? Second. Motion for approval by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Commissioner Martin abstained. I wasn't here last meeting.
All right. Carries and we proceed. Thank you very much. Item number 5 on the agenda, report by the Department of Public Safety regarding issues at city facilities and parks, all wards.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Tony Kumaro on behalf of Department of Public Safety. I will go ahead and highlight some of the events that took place in our parks. I'm going to start with Ward 1. There we go, got my arrow. The most activity, total for the ward was 13 citations or arrests, down from 17 the year prior. Bob Baskin Park, we had 3 events there. The most common charge was lodging without consent. Rainbow Family Park, we had 2 arrests or citations. Aloha Shores Park, we had 2 arrests or citations. And Rotary Park, we also had 2 arrests or citations. Those violations, most popular, driving violations, possession of shopping cart, and warrants. Moving on to Ward 2, 6 total citations or arrests, it's down from 9 the previous year. Kellogg's Air Sports Complex, we had 3 arrests or citations. That was consistent with a year ago, and there were no other arrests or citations, which is down from 6 the previous year. Ward 3, Justice Leavitt Family Park, 36 arrests or citations. That is up from 22 the prior year, and the vast majority of those were for park violations, park rules violations. Second on that list, Selby Park, 10 citations or arrests. Warrants were the most common violation there. Baker Park, 9 citations or arrests. The most common there was park violations, and that was up from 6 the prior year, and Selby was up from just 1 the previous year. Moving on to Ward 4, Bunker Park was 2 arrests or citations. That's up from 1 the prior year. Police Memorial, there was 1 event there for reckless driving, as you see, and I would like to provide a little bit of background on that. This particular incident involved juveniles that decided it was a good idea to try and car surf. The driver subsequently lost control of the vehicle, hit a sign, which forced those 2 individuals off the vehicle, which resulted in injuries. This was unfortunately a heat of the moment type of thing, and prevention, unfortunately, is not something that we can do for common sense related violations. Fortunately, they did survive, although they did suffer some injuries, but I did want to provide some context and background on that particular event. Moving on, Buckskin Basin, there was also 1 citation there, up from 0 the previous, and possession of shopping cart was the most popular violation there, and also at Bunker Park. Moving on to Ward 5, Lorenzi Park, 32 citations or arrests there, up from 12 the previous year. Park violations, the most common issue there. Ethel Pearson Park, 7 arrests or citations, up from 2 the previous year. Also, park rules violations being the most common situation. Ed Fountain Park, 6 arrests or citations, up from 1 the previous year. Warrants were the most common violation. And Heritage Park, 4 arrests or citations, down 1 from 5 the prior year. And park rules violations also the most common there. Moving on to Ward 6, there were no arrests or citations in Ward 6 that happened during the month of March, and that is down from 2 the previous year, and happy to see that. Going over total calls for service, Ward 1, there were 97 total calls for service. Ward 2, 42 calls for service. Ward 3, 154 calls for service. Ward 4, 59 calls for service. Ward 5, 150 calls for service, and Ward 6, 30 calls for service, for a grand total of 537 calls for service in our parks this past month. Move on real quickly to our trailer cameras. They are currently deployed at Kianga Isoke or the Doolittle area in response to shootings that have happened in the area. There is a general rise in crime in that area, and when that happens, it obviously spills onto our properties. So we have one camera there. We also have one that is deployed at the old DTC lot in response to some auto burglaries and stolen vehicles that have been occurring in that location. Community-oriented policing events. March 23rd, Doolittle Community Center was the Spring, Easter, and car show in Ward 5. And also in Ward 5 on March 7th, Doolittle Community Center, Reading Week. Sorry. That is all of the statistics that I have. I'm very open to answering any questions you might have.
Commissioner Keller here, Ward 3. So park violations seems to be standing out, specifically in Ward 3. That's pretty general. Anything that stands out as far, what are those park violations? Anything that you've seen highlighted or repeated quite often?
Tony Kumar, Department of Public Safety. It's not necessarily anything that stands out. There's, as we've discussed in the past, park rules violations is sort of a catch-all ordinance, if you will, that encompasses a lot of violations, anything from driving on the grass, driving on the sidewalk, parking a vehicle where it's not supposed to be, using the picnic table as a bed, washing your clothes in the water feature. There's a lot of things that get encompassed by that. So specific violations is a little tough to whittle down without getting really into the weeds of what it is. But we do see a lot of those as we move forward. As I'm sure everyone is well aware, we have a large unhoused population. A lot of them are in Ward 3, so we do tend to see a number of that type of violation. Fortunately, those types of violations are nonviolent, so in dealing with those, I mean, if you will, we would classify those more as nuisance violations, health and safety type of violations. So they're important, but as I said, fortunately not anything extremely dangerous. Yes, ma'am.
This is Commissioner Sherman at large. Chair Niger, would it be okay if I asked a question at this time?
Please.
I was curious to know, with the crime on the rise in Las Vegas in general, is there adequate signage on how somebody from the public could contact the marshals directly, or are they encouraged to dial 911?
Tony Kumar, Department of Public Safety. Commissioner, the answer is both. We do have signage. The park rules signs generally have our contact information on it. There are also separate signs in many of the parks that have the direct dispatch line notifying folks that they can call us. 911 is also something that is relevant if it is an extreme emergency. That would be something that we would encourage. So that information is also displayed throughout the parks and properties as well.
Chair Bob Robinson, Ward 1. Officer, I do have a question regarding lodging without consent. If you can talk me through how one establishes that. And the context that I'm asking this question is this. I was driving by Gary Dexter Park and I saw some folks that had the appearance to possibly be homeless, but they're there using the park. And so to me that seems to be kind of a gray area. Could you maybe walk me through what it is that establishes one actually lodging?
Of course, sir. Tony Kumar, DPS. I will tell you that ebbs and flows with the interpretations, legal interpretations, whether that be via case law, any ACLU challenges that come up. Essentially what that is there is lawful use of the park. Lodging over time is, so if you were using the park and you were coming in and you were using it, you would have some items with you, having a picnic blanket, a picnic basket, some food, maybe a bike or something with you would not be unusual. However, if you've got all your items set up, you've got a full kitchen set up, your bed set up, pillow, blanket, all those types of things, and you're observed there for, shall we say, an extended period of time. Like if I go by there every day and you're there every day, from open to close with a tent pitched in the ground, those are That's kind of an extreme situation, but that's kind of, what our litmus test is for, is this truly lodging versus is it, normal use? So in general for us, the litmus test would be if an average person, whoever they may be, were in the park, would this be reasonable for them to have, the type of things they have with them and be there for the length of time that they would be there? If that is in fact normal, then that is in fact, standard use of the park. However, if it exceeds that, or if, we run into these situations where, they literally have truckloads of items, then that would not be consistent with your normal, usage of the park, sir.
Thank you.
Andy Armenian, Mayor's appointee.
Yes, sir.
How many marshals do we have currently?
Currently we have just under 90 uniformed on patrol.
Anyone? I have a question. This is Vice Chair Niger. Regarding the homeless, I presume, I'm not sure, if there's a different way to track how many of these calls, or if you guys are already tracking how many of these calls are related to homeless issues?
Tony Kumar, DPS. Yes, sir, we do our best to try to keep, some track of this within reason, within guidelines, within challenges established by the ACLU. But yes, basically we're looking at if they're unable to provide us with a physical address, then that's a metric that we would use to track that.
Yeah, I understand the challenges that our leaders face, because it's all about public support, and if we have statistics, it's easier to get public support. But statistics are important. Otherwise, people just.
Absolutely, Chair. Tony Kumar, DPS. One of the issues, unfortunately, is that, I have had the privilege, if you will, I didn't set out this way, but with my work with the conditions team and the MORE teams has sort of brought me to the forefront of, that battle, that initiative. And I will tell you that statistics, unfortunately, don't belie, everything that's there. This is really an issue that you need to sort of be in the weeds on to truly understand. Although I've been doing this for a while and obviously interacted with a number of them on patrol, only through my work with the conditions team was I really able to see what is going on and what the magnitude of the challenge is, because there is a lot of misconception as far as solutions or how easy it is. Obviously most of us, hear a lot of the public outcry, but that is not as simple as it is. Providing them with food, providing them with a place to sleep is not the end-all, be-all. There is a willingness on the behalf of the individual that's being contacted. Unfortunately, the rough, raw number, since we're talking about statistics, is probably about 80% of them are homeless by choice, by some choice that they are making. Whether that be, we have heard, whether it be consciously or subconsciously by their actions, that's really what they're doing. On the far side, we've had people say, I get Social Security, I get VA benefits, I get, some type of pension, you name it. But why would I spend money on housing? Because that only means I have less money to spend on drugs and alcohol. So, those are the kind of things that we run into, that when you're looking at solutions, it's very difficult to combat that, because I really don't have an answer for someone that would rather sleep in the elements rather than be housed so that they have more disposable income to spend on, those other things. So we are doing our best to track them, to address them. Our officers in general will offer services to everyone that we contact, even if we've contacted, that person 100 times, which is unfortunately not uncommon. But there has to be a willingness on that part, for them to take it. And sometimes rapport over time is your best weapon, is that you need to build a relationship with these folks, because trust on the streets is very difficult to gain.
I appreciate those comments very much.
Thank you, sir.
The only other comment I had was that I also appreciate the COP events. I think they're vitally important, so thank you very much. Are there any other questions for? Wonderful.
Thank you,
for being
Chair.
here. Moving on to item 6, report by Steve Glimp, Parks and Grounds Maintenance Manager regarding park maintenance updates, all wards. Hello, sir.
Howdy, how you guys doing? Steve Glimp, Manager, Parks and Grounds Maintenance. I've just got a project update for you guys. Ward 1, Rainbow Family Park, we just installed new backstops on the Little League fields. Ward 2, Kellogg's there. This is actually in progress. It was supposed to be done, but supply chain issues, and thank you to Russ for pointing these out. Cracked and damaged barbecues that are getting replaced. Ward 3, again, supply chain issues. This was supposed to be done as well. The paneling on the new restroom at Baker Park is getting blown apart by the wind, and in some cases taken and stolen. So we're replacing that with a little more sturdy material. Ward 4, we just went through and painted all the amenities in the park, benches, tables, restrooms, all the park signage and sculpture. Ward 5, we just replaced all the Little League tough sheds out at Children's Memorial Park. I believe there were 3 of them. And then Ward 6, Sunny Springs Park, went through and painted all the picnic pavilions, picnic tables, and such. That's all I've got. If you got any questions.
Fastest in the
Commissioner
history.
Niger,
There you go.
this is Lisa Sherman via teleconference. I did have a question regarding maintenance in some of the older parks.
Go ahead, please.
I was recently at Angel Park, and I noticed that the apparatus to pull bags for the dog poop, as well as the wastebasket to contain it once it was picked up, that the shrubbery has grown so large that people really can't access that. And I'm wondering if in some of our older parks, because the vegetation has, really sprung up, is anybody addressing that in terms of a project accessibility?
We periodically go through our parks and do park inspections, and those are the times when those sort of things get identified, and if it's something that we're seeing like kind of system wide throughout all of our parks, we would turn that into a project, but typically it's handled on a park by park basis.
Well, sorry, Chair Niger, the photos are very pretty.
Cool.
I like the paint jobs. Think we're good to go? Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Moving on to item number 7, report by Aaron Radke, Recreation Manager, regarding Recreation and Center updates, all wards.
Hi, good afternoon,
Hello.
Vice Chair and Commissioners. I have a few items that we're going to cover real quick. I'll be covering the emerging trends across the recreation areas, hot topics and facility updates, and a few events and attendance numbers that we have. One of the beautiful things that we just acquired is the municipal pool off to on the right is a new sculpture that just got placed there at the end of March, and we will have that in place. It's on the grassy area just outside of the pool, but in the back area, and we'll have that there for a year. The artist is from California, so we've been working closely with them to get that installed along with Cultural Affairs. It's one of the emerging topics of creating more cultural liveliness for the community to enjoy. And right behind that, I know you can't really see it too well, that is the mural. It's a historical mural that had been placed years ago, and they just restored it a few years ago. So people really enjoy being at the pool when we call them the garage doors are up, and they can kind of look outside. They see the freeway's kind of right behind them, but then they have the grassy area. To the left is one of our hot topic points at Muni. A lot of our doors are starting to rust from the internal moisture, the chemicals that are on the indoor pools. It kind of they start to corrode in the wall, in the door wells and things like that. So maintenance is repairing those because that does affect our Southern Nevada Health District guidelines. So we're being proactive in getting that replaced currently. Veterans Memorial, this is the most recent update. This is the front desk. From month to month, I'm just kind of bringing you the updates for there. It's a beautiful new desk area that'll be right when you walk in the doors within the 10 feet for us to greet everybody. Lets us repurpose some other areas as well, and it's close to the staff offices, so if there's any emergencies and or if we need to talk to any constituents, we're really close by there. To the right is just the status right now of the bathrooms. Now, these were both original sets that we finally got kind of a little bit of a facelift up there. I'm kind of excited about that. For our active adults, we have, on the left, it was a St. Patrick's Day luncheon, and we know that we have many, many luncheons throughout the whole city, and if you guys ever get a chance to come in, please come in, feel free to join. Most of them we register ahead of time. And then on the right, this is part of our getting more active seniors. This was out for a hike. We've been doing more hikes. The weather's nice, except when it rains. And they've been doing some trails. And our next big outing is the county fair in Logandale, and that'll be on the 11th of this month. We have each of our senior centers. The buses are almost full. That's a lot. They really love that event because some of them don't get the chance to go too far without family or somebody to assist them as well. So we have abled and ones that need assistance going on this, so it's kind of a great way with the inclusion and incorporating everything for everyone that we have in our community. Corporate challenge, we were off to a running start, literally. The middle picture was our torch run just before the downpour, the rain came that weekend. And we have completed, we just finished out our third week in a competitions between the pool, we've had dodgeball, we've did trivia, and then table tennis. Our numbers right now, we have 55 teams, and that's up from 40 teams last year. Moving forward, we'll have a total workout on all of Corporate Challenge. But so far, we've got great responses. People are happy. Companies are happy. It really it shows a big for Las Vegas, it's great because we get all of the hotels, small businesses, large businesses, and it speaks highly to what we do in parks and recreation, but overall what we do for the city and offer. And for our recreation centers, spring break just finished, and some of the sites did there's this, it's called Humpty Dumpty, it's dropping the egg, but they protect it, so there's a challenge that they do, they break them into groups on whose egg doesn't break, and they do a big event for it. Traditionally, this is held outside. This is at Doolittle, but due to the weather, they had to bring it inside. And then the kids from the spring break camp are off in the middle. They were all cheering for the ones that did win and which ones didn't break. To the right, these were some shamrock shakes that Veterans Memorial made for spring break camp, and then they also did made leprechaun traps and things like that to keep the kids engaged during spring break, along with a lot of other activities. We had 415 kids throughout all of our spring break camps this year. Every center had camp, and most of them were at capacity and or a couple extended above capacity just for our needs. They also enjoy going to the indoor swimming pools as an option for a field trip. We use our city pools for that, and then there's no cost incorporated on it as we're kind of watching our budgets and everything else. So a great opportunity to get them engaged in swimming, and then also egg hunts and all the other things that come along with spring break. I highlighted, trying to highlight a different center each time, or a couple of them, and I wanted to pick out on Doolittle Community Center this one. They had some fantastic pictures and activities. This is a new program, and this is continuing with the diversity and integrating new programming at centers. I couldn't pass this one up because the kids are just very super cute, and also when I'm seeing them actually making things, it's teaching them life skills. I don't know who doesn't like a cake pop, but they're learning all kinds of stuff, and wish I was there now because it's almost dinner time. So, but this is a great way to see. We have a commercial kitchen there, so they're able to incorporate some cooking classes. We also do cooking classes at Vets and also at Marabelli. So it's a great way just to get the kids engaged on different ways and techniques, how to help their parents, how to be creative themselves, and then also learn about healthy food options on some of those items. So Becker Technology Center just celebrated their first birthday this past Saturday, and they also incorporated an egg hunt along with it. So the kids were exposed to not only you can see on to the slide to the left, you have a little bit, or the picture, there's a DJ room in there. I don't know if you guys have been there yet, but there's a sound room. There's also a green room, along with a lot of esports and opportunities for coding classes, 3D printing, and additional technology programs that are it's a great function that we have. We have been struggling trying to get enough participants to continue it ongoing. We'll get 3 or 4 in a class. Priscilla's the coordinator there and has been just trying to do different options. We have come up with a new pass that rolled out. We announced it at this birthday party. It is a Becker program pass, so we're doing it for $35, and it will go through December, so it's per month, but they can take numerous classes for that $35. In addition, we're having some of that staff go up to Centennial Hills for the Active Adult Center, but it will be on the YMCA side, and we're doing different programs there to try and encourage parents and kids to get engaged into more of the esports, to get them into like the coding, or if they're starting to learn robotics is the first one, and Mindstorms and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully that will engage them to come down to the actual technology center once they realize what we have and the opportunities, and the extremely low cost compared to a coding class that you may get off of the beaten private sector. Additionally, there'll be 4 summer camps here as well that are focused in 2 various age groups, depending on what area they want to do in robotics and things like that. And then I kind of have all of that wrapped up for everything. The hot topic that we're working on right now, we had a shooting at, we still call it Doolittle Park, but Kayanga Park recently, and it actually ended up being one of the kids from Democracy Prep, which is across the street, that got shot. And it was some people out there that were adults out there that were from Democracy Prep as well. So when that occurred, on top of the previous shooting I spoke about previously, like at Stupak, that was a couple of streets away, and then we're having continual issues with other crime throughout our centers. We've been actively scheduling, trying to get the active shooter trainings for our staff, and I'm happy and very, very pleased to say we're starting those on the 24th of this month. We're going to start out with MSU and DULA, and the reason for MSU is when we do our sports events, we've been having issues out there as well with volunteer coaches, some parents, they may get a little out of control, and we have to kind of keep everybody feeling safe. We actually pay the DPS out there to come out to those games now just to kind of have a presence, but it's very hard when you have 4 to 6 different fields going at a time. You're at 2 different parks, but it helps us have a standard to start. And then on top of the active shooter drills, we have staff that is new, staff that has been at different facilities that have shifted around. So being proactive again, the best that we can to get them into it. There's a video that we'll go through, and then we're going to go out to one of the parks and actually do a scenario similar to what we've done with the seasonal pools. You're open to everything that's coming at you, so it's kind of a hide, duck, fight, flight kind of situation most of the time. But our main concern is, a lot of times when we have the kids too, get them out of the pool, get them into that safe zone, and each facility and each pool is totally different where the safest part can be, and depending on where you are at the time. So we're hoping as we go through these drills, the kids are going through them in schools all the time now, so hopefully just kind of, the ebb and flow, of it. We've been successful with the trainings. We've had them a couple years ago, wanted to get them reinstated. Personally, I think we need to do them every year. We were trying to do every 2 years or 3 years, but society has changed. So those are kind of our big things that we're working on as a whole.
Thank you very much. I'll start off with a question. Becker Technology Center, would you say it's an issue with engagement, or you have engagement, but or is it a cost issue because there's a cost involved?
So it's a combination. The one thing we do have is financial aid. So if they qualify, it goes off the HUD provisions on what's set every January. A lot of them qualify for FAF. We do have there's a free after-school program, particularly geared through like the junior high age kids, that's through a grant through NRPA. We've been trying, we'll get kids in there, we'll get 3 or 4, we try to preschool to try and do like some middle time or early morning time. We'll get 4 kids in there, 3 or 4. I think part of it is, yes, there's a cost associated, but it's learning and explaining the value of the programs. For the membership pass, that you can also use FAF on that. So depending on how much you qualify, 50% or 75, you can actually get it for $7 for the month for, on average, for many classes. So we're trying that avenue. They do like the park is adjacent, and they do like the sports area and all of that too. So crime has gone down in the area. We've had a few exceptions. We've had a few, the doors broken in, the glass broken in at Becker a couple times, some damages, some, you know, the normal tagging and things like that. But overall, it's in Ward 4 and it's tucked in the neighborhood versus being prevalent on a street. And that, for me, I used to work at Brindley Community School back in the days when we had community schools, and just being right where the traffic is ideal for a lot of our centers.
Got it.
Commissioner Keller here, Ward 3. Last year we had a problem with staffing lifeguards at our pools. How are we looking this season?
Okay, Erin Radke, Recreation Manager. Currently, we have a hiring fair coming up. We have 2 of them. One this weekend will be at Pavilion Pool, and then we have another one that we'll do at Muni. Lifeguards, we are going to be short. We run short normally because of the competitiveness of the hotels and the rate of pay. Generally, they can be paid $20, $25 an hour. They get lunches. They get a lot of package deals that we are not allowed to do. Our focus has been going to the schools directly, setting up, we go to, they have job fairs, but we also try and meet with the schools to get a group, you know, a smaller group so we can talk to them. And recently, Savante, he's my recreation supervisor that oversees that facility, overall the aquatics. He's met with HUD this week, and we're looking at engaging in a different way where possibly we can start to get into those doors where there's people that want to become lifeguards. We do all the certifications. We offer those for free if they stay with, you know, if they go through and they work for the city. So we've been doing incentive plans for that for, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. We started that just a few years back. And then we also do high school swim is in season right now, so we do talk to all those coaches and kids. A lot of times they have limitations because of school, and their competitive areas are still going. The main focus that we are looking at right now, I met with him today, we're trying to do with Channel 2. We want to get more on the social media side where we get new video, and social media has been great in pushing out hiring fairs and lifeguards and all these things, but we want to try and tap into some new resources, and then focusing on either, like, I won't say necessarily seniors, but there's retired staff or retired people that maybe they just want to pick up a few hours a week, reach out obviously to the high school kids, kind of start branching into some different areas to see if those are some resources that we can possibly get a few. And then the main thing that we're having a struggle with during the summer, we generally run them 40 hours a week to work. Some people want that, but we struggle, especially up in the up at the Pavilion Pool area and some of the Garside area. They don't necessarily want to work 40 hours, so you end up with people that want to work, you know, 10 hours or 20 hours. So instead of needing 100 lifeguards, we may need 150 lifeguards to do all the coverage. We're assessing the hours of operations right now and using our reporting factors to figure out which ones and the time slots that will be open. Currently, it is very similar to last year's days and hours, but there's one pool that I wanted to kind of look at. That's Baker Park Pool, Baker Pool. Primarily, they call it a bathtub pool because it's just an open, big pool. It's great for events, but it doesn't have the play feature, so it doesn't draw on the families as much as like CMDH and also Garside and things like that. So we're analyzing all of that data, and then we'll be getting some information towards the end of April. We should know for sure, you know, what it looks like, and go from there. In our staffing plan, we roll out open a few days and then extending as we get more, because a lot of them are, if they're in college, they're just coming back. You know, CMDH right now too is also going through, they just repainted all of the structures and fixed the stairs and stuff. So that pool right now is completely empty of water, but it's going to look fantastic for summer. So we want to make sure that that one gets opened and manned up So CMDH and Garside generally have the most requests for birthday parties, the open play times, things like that because of the features.
Thank you so much for being so proactive with this. It was such a hot topic. I know specifically from my neighbors in Ward 3, a lot of our children, they don't have the means to go to another pool. They don't have pools. This is incredibly important for Ward 3 specifically, and I'm sure other commissioners can speak on their wards, but this was a big pain point for our neighbors last season, continually hearing about it. So thank you so much for being so proactive in looking for staff and looking at different ways to open these pools because it's incredibly important for this area. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'm Brian Vilkes, Ward 1. I have to remember what ward I'm in. It's good to see the return of the corporate challenge after COVID. Are there any trending statistics? Is it too soon for that? Is there one sport that seems to stick out that's more popular? Do you have enough resources? I mean, maybe when you're finished with, is it done in May, I think?
Yes.
Maybe you can give us an idea of how successful and what recommendations to move forward on that.
Erin Radke, Recreation Manager. That will be our wrap-up timeframe, and then we'll have more pictures, and then we'll also do a presentation just over all of the overall participation numbers and then what was most popular. I think the main thing is that people are ready to get back involved like it was in the old days, and we've got a very creative team that makes sure that everything is set for them. Track and field is huge, individual, walk race, everything that we have, people are jumping in and going with. So we'll have all of that stats when we wrap up Corporate Challenge for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any others? Thank you very much, Erin.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, welcoming back Mr. Glimp. Report by Steve Glimp, Parks and Grounds Maintenance Manager, and Brad Dossler, Urban Forester, on the tree and tree planting program, all words. I hope I got that name right. Maybe not.
No, that was pretty good. Dossler, nice. Vice Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. Where are we at? I'm just going to fill you in on a couple of different components of our tree planting program, show you guys what we've been up to. So part of what we do is we partner with a local nonprofit, Get Outdoors Nevada, that brings volunteers into the parks, sometimes for park cleanups, other things, but we do the tree planting component of this. So I guess this list of parks is starting last fall. All these parks we've had tree planting projects at. We're planting roughly 20 to 25 trees per park, and we're getting a good turnout from people. We seem to get good corporate involvement. We've had MGM, DraftKings, and NV Energy all come together with their the volunteer component of their businesses to partner with us to bring people out and contribute to the parks. So that's carrying on. We got a couple more this year. We're going to be at Ansan Sister Park on April 6th, and then again for Arbor Day, which I'll cover in a second, the Centennial Hills, and that's going to be later in April. One other project that we did, and maybe you guys heard about this, back in January before the Super Bowl, the NFL Green Committee kind of hosts an NFL Green Week to partner with different people to plant trees, and I guess they do more than that, but our project was we planted trees, and so we actually put together the biggest proposal for them, and we did kind of the culminating event for their NFL Green Week. We planted 100 trees at All-American Park around these two artificial turf football fields that just got redone, so that was a really great event. We had almost 200 volunteers in the parks, and it was just it was a good turnout for everybody. So, like I mentioned, Arbor Day is coming up, so we're going to do a Arbor Day, Earth Day celebration like we've done the last couple years. It'll be at Centennial Hills in this location. We're going to plant I think like 25 trees, but they'll have food trucks, and they're bringing out a DJ and a stage and vendors, so that'll be an event that we're working together with planning on. So we had another opportunity. The Water Authority granted Impact NV, which is another nonprofit partner of ours, they granted them some money to help fund tree planting projects. So we took that opportunity to tackle some bigger projects. We're going to be planting 150 trees at Doc Romeo Park. A lot of those are going in the parking lot, and then in and around the ball fields where we have the cutouts on the sidewalk. Again, Lorenzi, some along the street, kind of throughout the park. Freedom Park, we're going to be planting 85 trees, and those will go in the turf grass around the walking path, so we'll get some shade up on the walking path, and that would be nice. And then Mountain Ridge, in the Mountain Ridge fourplex, we're replacing all the trees that are in that area. Okay. Also, again, in conjunction with the Water Authority, we're going to be starting in on our turf conversion project. So we're being asked, and they've identified non-functional turf areas in almost all the parks in the city. And so the parks that you see listed are the ones that we've identified that we're going to start these projects. We're waiting for the turf to start growing, then we're going to do kind of the kill middle of the summer, and then we'll start the renovation projects, and hopefully all of these are going to be done before 2025. As far as the areas that we identified, they're all non-functional. We're not taking out, big pieces of grass that people are using, but we're looking at smaller things that we can better maintain and be a little bit more responsible with water usage. And then I think this just went through council, but we got our urban forestry master plan and tree inventory approved. And so this is a really great project. So what the master plan is supposed to do is it's going to act as a guiding document to help us meet some of these planting goals that we've set out, identify areas most in need of planting, and how the community kind of long-term sees the need and their desire for trees. So the idea is to establish and then consolidate and then set goals for what we want the urban forest of the city of Las Vegas to look like. So the beginning of it is to kind of establish the vision of what we want to create, and then we're going to do an assessment, and that'll include the inventorying of what we currently have as far as trees, but also policies, codes, and ordinances as they pertain to trees within the city. So and what's important with that is just that trees kind of cross over so many departments. Like I work with public works and construction and EUD, and all these people kind of have a stake in trees and how they affect their projects or goals that they're trying to meet. So hopefully this master plan consolidates some of those things and kind of align our goals and help the departments communicate more clearly about that. Another thing about the assessment, we're going to be doing actually the first ever digital inventory of trees. So the last inventory that we did almost 12 years ago, people just went out in the parks, walked through, identified the trees, kind of measured it, made a subjective assessment of the quality of the tree. What we're going to be doing is sending some kind of Google cars through the parks that use LiDAR to create an actual digital twin like you're seeing on the stage. So all of our trees they'll know exactly how large they are, they'll know the quality of their health, leaf surface area, and it's going to allow us to kind of compare those trees. So the way it was explained to me is like if we go out and we inventory and we have 100 ash trees in a park, and then some are going to be better than others. They're not all equal in their value or in their health. And so what this does is it'll inventory all of those, but then it kind of identifies the outliers so that we as tree managers can then go look at those specific trees and kind of assist those. So it does a little bit of the work for us, because I can't go out and assess every tree. It becomes very subjective, but this is going to give us an objective look at the health of the urban forest as it is. And then in the end, with the master plan, it'll help us to set goals, kind of benchmarks that we can achieve, and try to get us to the vision that we're going to set out. So that's an exciting project, but that's just in the beginning stages of that, and we haven't really gotten started on the master plan, but we've gotten the funding, and we're going to start working on that. And that is all I have.
That was a big update. There's a lot of awesome stuff going on.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Any questions?
This is Commissioner Burgos, Ward 6. I know at one point you had mentioned, I think when we did the tour of the tree farms, there was going to be some projects or some, I think, grants for our citizens or our neighborhoods to be able to get funding for the individual residential housing. I don't know how, is that still going on, or is it passed, or?
So it's still going on. So we applied for $10 million from the IRA grant, the Inflation Reduction Act, and we were awarded $5 million, and the basis of that project was to get funding to plant trees on private property. So not planting trees in the parks, but supporting people who can't necessarily afford to buy a tree. And so the project included the purchase of the tree, the installation, and the irrigation, and then 5 years of maintenance from the time of the planting. I think we're working with the government to kind of solidify our proposal and make sure that everything's lined up. I don't think it's been approved yet, but it's in the process, so we're hoping that comes through.
And then how will our citizens find out about that? How does that work? And how are they selected?
Yeah, I imagine that we would do some kind of social media campaign. I think we can get some good press for those kind of things. So we'll spread the word, and I think the city has the digital resources to get that message out.
Thank you.
Commissioner Howard, Ward 6. I saw that you had like parking lot trees with parking lots, and there's large concrete squares. Are those trees going to be having roots that go down rather than spread out so that the concrete doesn't lift and create a tripping hazard? Has that been thought about?
Right, so in a lot of our sidewalk cutouts, or all of our sidewalk cutouts, we use a root barrier product around the perimeter, so it does kind of drive those roots down and doesn't allow them to get in that little space underneath the concrete.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, we try to be proactive about that.
Commissioner Keller, Ward 3 here. Going back to the planting trees on private property, do you have a timeline at all for that entire project, and do you have a name for that project?
No, we don't have a name for it, and I'd be hesitant to give a timeline. I think it's with the federal government. I'm not sure when that's going to come through. So even if it were to get approved today, at this point, just to get everything kind of lined up with our nonprofit partner, we wouldn't be starting until the fall to plant trees, I think, at this point anyways. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Mr. Glimp, are we good on you? Okay. Moving on to item number 9, update by Pat O'Mara, Deputy Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Director, regarding the W. Wayne Bunker Family Park Regional Pickleball Complex located at 7351 West Alexander Road, Ward 4, Councilwoman Alan Polinsky's ward.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much. Pat O'Mara, Deputy Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. a few months ago at a meeting, I was asked about the pickleball complex at Wayne Bunker Park, and so I'm here to give you a little bit of information about that and where we are. So what you can see on your screens right now is the overall layout of that area, how it relates to the existing features within the Wayne Bunker Park, and then some of the area around it. You can see this is on an area that doesn't have full annexation, so we are dealing with county residents that are across the street. We're certainly trying to be good neighbors with them. We have made some adjustments to the complex for that reason. So a little bit about the project history. Back in 2019, the City Council voted to purchase the parcel. We submitted the project to round 18 of SNPLMA about a year later in September of 20, and then through that time it's gone to City Council for contract awards. It's been to Planning Commission for different stages and variances, approvals of variances, and then we did also have a neighborhood meeting in November of 2021. Most recently in March, on the 12th of March, it went before Planning Commission as a result of the sound study that was requested. We had delayed some appearances at meetings until that sound study had come back. So once that was done, we brought it back to Planning Commission, and it was approved at Planning Commission unanimously back again, like I said, in March on the 12th. So if you haven't seen it in a while, this is our existing site plan. We have 24 courts. That's a reduction in courts from the original 30 from the complex. I will also note some of the other adjustments we made after hearing from the community. We changed the orientation of the parking, so now it is an additional buffer between the complex and the sound wall. So there's that additional space between, like I said, the complex and certainly the neighbors across the way. We've also adjusted the landscaping plan, which I'll talk about in a moment, and we are part of the project is that we actually have to develop the remainder of Constantinople. So right now it's just partially paved because there were not improvements. But now that we're improving that parcel, we actually have to put in sidewalk, we have to put in the remainder of that road. So in doing that, we have heard from the community, and they don't want parking there. So we feel plenty of parking for the complex, so we didn't have a problem with that. We are going to be putting out no parking signs along that street. And then we also did, based on the sound study, the western wall there on the left will be a 10-foot sound attenuating wall, and the southern wall will be 13 feet. And then those two did require variances because that would not be a typical height for those. And then I mentioned the landscaping plan. In the complex, you can see that bottom row of trees, that's all on the exterior side of the wall. So it's not just going to be a big cinder block wall for the neighbors to be looking at. We're actually going to be planting in that area between the wall and the sidewalk, so that there's it's a little bit more appealing to the eye. And then that whole complex there will have about 125 new trees. Actually, I'll give you the real number: 123 new trees, 797 new shrubs of a 5-gallon size, and then 180 new ground coverings of multiple different species. Certainly there'll be multiple different species of tree and shrub as well, just for diversity of the area. So where do we go next? Well, this complex will go to City Council for approval on April 17th, so about 2 weeks from now. And then in the interim time, we'll go to completion of design. Once that's done, we'll submit the plans for permitting, and then once the plans have been permitted, we'll actually be able to advertise the bid and create an actual construction schedule. The construction schedule is expected to be approximately 12 months, and with completion in the second quarter of 2026. Many of these projects have to go sequentially. They can't always happen concurrently. Where we can go concurrently, we will certainly try to do that to tighten up some timelines. But for the most part, most of these have to actually be done sequentially. In 2026, we'll actually start programming the site. We expect it to be similar to other complexes in the region that are of this size, where there will be some that are set aside for challenge courts, some that are set aside for tournaments only, some that are set aside for free play only. We'll have them added to our reservation system where you can do that. We're looking at different ways to make that as easy as possible, certainly as customer friendly as possible. And then we do anticipate tournaments wanting to use the space. I think it'll be great, and it's certainly the only thing in that area. But we do plan on limiting that so that it is available to the community just to go and play, more often than not with tournament play. And then one of the items that I want to mention is that 6 months after we start programming it, we'll come back with an additional administrative review, and at that time do some actual acoustic studies on what's happening during the actual use of it. Everything now is based on statistical models and what we know of the sport and the area, and so we're going to go out and do a practical application of that, and then look at any adjustments that may need to be made based on a new evaluation. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Earl Stitt, Commission, Ward 4. In looking at, I guess I should use the speaker. Looking at the diagram to the west, the wall, you said it's going to be 10 feet tall?
Correct.
Will there be any opening from that to the courts? That wall that's 10 feet tall?
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Can you walk in? You have to go around that wall, or can you walk in from the west side?
I believe that we have some fencing that may prevent people from walking around. I'm not I don't recall exactly. Certainly our hope and desire is that everyone enters the complex properly, through the actual drive and parks in our parking lot. We don't want people to be utilizing the parking lot at the church or parking on Constantinople, which will actually not be permitted.
Right. And then on Constantinople, that's going to be a solid wall. There'll be no break there to walk through.
Correct.
As well. Okay. And when you say that there's a variance you're going to have to get?
That's been done.
Oh, that's been done.
That was what went to the Planning Commission.
So it's, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is Commissioner Burgos, Ward 6. It looks like a great facility. I have a question regarding adaptive athletes.
Sure.
Those are in wheelchairs, prosthetic limbs, that sort of thing. Will there be a place for them here?
Everything that we build will be according to ADA specifications. So it will be designed in such a way that they'll have access, yeah.
Because I'm not a pickleball player yet. I said yet. I know we have some here, but I wasn't sure of actually the court surface. I played tennis, but I just didn't know if the court surface will allow for adaptability.
It's a hard surface. It's a hard surface, so there won't be any issues if they happen to be confined to a wheelchair or something like that. They would be able to roll out onto onto the court and play, should they desire. Yeah.
Commissioner Vokitz here. I may be able to answer your question because I'm with USA Pickleball, but for a wheelchair access, they require 10 feet clearance from the perimeter of the court. So what facilities are doing now is taking 1 or 2 courts and accommodating that, and then a championship court usually is 10 feet. So that is a recommendation. And for regular competition, it's 7 feet between the edge of the court and a barrier or a fence. So if those are both accommodated, then it's good to go. I've watched this project since 2019, and I really want to compliment the city for reaching out, listening to the needs and the changes and all the adaptations to the plans and the renovations. So good job to the city.
Thank you very much.
One more question. I heard that since the last meeting that there is another appeal to the Wayne Bunker Park. Is that affirmative or?
I'm not aware of that. So our planning portion, our planning department, kind of spearheads the project, and so I'm sure that they're aware.
John Rodilla, Assistant City Attorney for the record. There was a resident at the Planning Commission meeting who had inquired about an appeal to the City Council, but I had not heard if it was formally appealed.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item number 10, report by commission members regarding parks, issues, and events within their respective council wards and at large, all wards. I would like to start this off by saying that we have amazing professionals within this department and within our city. Several of us attended the memorial tree dedication for our friend Malcolm White the other day, and it was beautiful. His family was there. We had several commissioners, and it was done very professionally, and I think the family appreciated it very much, and it was very awesome to see because the tree is in the park that his daughters used to play with him in when they were kids. So I appreciate everyone very much for that.
This is Council. Oh, who am I? Commissioner Burgos, Ward 6. I attended the Spring Fling on last Sunday, and I wanted to shout out to those from the city who attended and braved the wind, the rain, and whatever else, the sleet, whatever we braved, whatever came our way. I mean, it was a great event. I was really happy to see, although the conditions weren't so great as far as weather, that we had a large part of the community came out, especially kids. The Easter Bunny was there in full force. And Parks and Recs had a great backyard kind of game, all kinds of games set up that were being used. So that was a great event. There is an event on April 5th, Movie in the Park, Jurassic World. It'll be at Knickerbocker Park at Providence Community, and that's a community effort between Wards 5 and Ward 6. There's also the Las Vegas Bluegrass Festival, which is a huge event, very popular. It's Saturday, April 13th at Centennial Hills Park. And that's it for me. Thank you.
This is Lisa Sherman, Commissioner at Large, and I just wanted to piggyback on to what our chair, Iger, had said about the tree planting. I don't know if everybody was aware that Malcolm White was a former director at the YMCA prior to becoming a professional mediator, and also as Parks and Recreation Advisory Commissioner before he was chair. He was instrumental in the planning and laying out of the park where we planted the tree, as well as the golf course adjacent to the park. So the placement of the tree could not have been more perfect. And I also want to echo the sentiments that Chair Niger said, thanking the city so much for doing such an honorary tribute to such a great man. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other Comments or additions for item number 10? All right, moving on. Item 11, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Seeing none, we will move on to item 12, which is the adjournment of this meeting. Thank you very much.